The Biden administration may go down in history as the most brazen constitutional fraud in American history. A Potemkin presidency fronted by a failing puppet with staffers behind the scenes pulling the strings. This is not political hyperbole. The American people saw it with their own eyes during the June 2024 debate. Numerous times, Biden stood frozen behind the podium, mouth agape, eyes frozen and unblinking. When he did speak, his words were confused and disjointed. I said that night, this is the most consequential presidential debate in history because it will result in one of the two candidates being removed from the ballot.
Welcome back to the program. What we just witnessed in the Senate Judiciary Committee is the absolute definition of a masterclass in constitutional oversight. Senator Ted Cruz didn't just show up to express generic political frustration over the weaponization of the Justice Department under the Biden-Harris administration. He brought the literal, undeniable data receipts. From a conservative Republican perspective, this hearing hits at the absolute core of our constitutional republic, the separation of powers and accountability. For years, the mainstream media carried water for an executive branch that quietly relied on systemic overreach, using automated judicial mechanisms and secret non-disclosure applications signed by rubber-stamping judges to keep congressional watchdogs completely in the dark. It was a deliberate institutional effort to surveil political opponents and bypass legislative oversight entirely. When Cruz pulled out the specific tracking data on the unprecedented deployment of executive maneuvers, including the staggering use of the Autopen, he completely dismantled the left's defense. This wasn't just a political defeat for the previous administration. It was a devastating exposure of bureaucratic failure and institutional lawfare. If you want to see exactly how deep the swamp goes and how a true conservative shreds it to pieces, you have to watch this exchange. If you are ready for honest conservative analysis that refuses to bow to the mainstream media spin, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now.
Thank you. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Biden administration may go down in history as the most brazen constitutional fraud in American history. A Potemkin presidency fronted by a failing puppet with staffers behind the scenes pulling the strings. This is not political hyperbole. The American people saw it with their own eyes during the June 2024 debate. Numerous times, Biden stood frozen behind the podium, mouth agape, eyes frozen and unblinking. When he did speak, his words were confused and disjointed. I said that night, this is the most consequential presidential debate in history because it will result in one of the two candidates being removed from the ballot. That was exactly right. And following that debate, the Democrats recognized the collapse. They pulled out their knives and took out President Biden like Caesar on the Ides of March. For all of their strutting about, protesting that they support democracy, not a one of them gave a damn about democracy when they pulled Biden off the ballot and dropped Kamala Harris in without a single Democrat primary voter voting for him. And you know what? Not a single Democrat is here today because not a single one of them gives a damn about the fact that they lied to the American people for 4 years. They knew. Every one of them knew that Joe Biden was mentally not competent to do the job. The White House press secretary, she knew when she stood in front of the American people and lied over and over and over again. And they're not here because they can't defend themselves. It wasn't a surprise. For 4 years, the White House hid President Biden from Republican senators, would not let him meet with us. He served 40 years in this body. We all know him. And they deliberately lied. And by the way, Jake Tapper had a bombshell book exposing the incredible scandal that Biden's mental decline was covered up by Jake Tapper. There's a Yiddish word, chutzpah, and that truly is chutzpah. How dare we lie and cover up what we all knew? Now, I have been asked literally 1,000 times by Texans, who was running the country? And I'm going to give you the most terrifying answer. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And not a single Democrat here cares. The most telling proof of Biden's decline came with the signature of the president, the symbol of executive authority that was outsourced to a machine. Mr. Wold, you're a lawyer who served in the White House counsel's office. You understand the gravity of presidential action. Does the president's signature carry legal and constitutional weight under Article 2?
Yes.
Is the act of signing an executive order or signing a law or granting a pardon a delegable duty of the president?
So in that opinion in 2005 from OLC, they said essentially that an Autopen could be used by a subordinate, but the president's determination as to sign the document can never be delegated.
Can that authority be transferred to a staffer or a machine without the president's explicit authorization?
Never.
And if you look at the statistics are stunning. In 2021, President Biden issued 78 executive orders. None were signed with an Autopen. That first year of the presidency, Biden, I suppose, was relatively lucid, and 78 executive orders he signed by hand. The second year, however, we see the Autopen emerge. The first Autopen executive order was issued on July 15th, 2022. After that day, 100% of the executive orders issued in 2022 were signed by an Autopen. In 2023, Biden issued 24 executive orders. 16 were Autopenned. In 2024, Biden issued 19. 14 were Autopenned. In 2025, Biden issued 14 executive orders. Every single one was Autopenned. Mr. Wold, let me ask you as a legal matter, if there's a law that's passed both houses of Congress and it goes to the White House, and a staffer autopens signing that law without the president's authorization, is that law legally passed and signed into law?
No.
If an executive order is issued and a staffer autopens it without the president's authorization, is that executive order legally binding?
No.
And if a pardon is issued from the President of the United States and a staffer autopens it without the president's authorization, is that pardon legally binding?
No.
Under the Biden White House, the ceremonial song, Hail to the Chief, was effectively replaced with Hail to the Pen. And it was an outright assault on democracy. And every reporter covering this ought to ask, why doesn't a Democrat care? We heard about the moral responsibilities of a staffer. How about an elected senator who knows damn well that if we get into a war and Iran is preparing to fire a nuclear weapon at the United States, that the commander-in-chief is busy playing with his Jell-O and is not competent to defend ourselves, and every member of the cabinet, the chief of staff.
What an absolute tour de force by Senator Ted Cruz. If you ever want a textbook example of why the establishment left is completely terrified of sharp, legally meticulous conservative lawmakers, just replay that clip. Cruz didn't just walk into that Senate Judiciary Committee hearing looking for a generic social media soundbite. He walked in prepared to lay out a devastating, ironclad case against the weaponized bureaucracy. Let's break down the sheer gravity of what was exposed here. For years, conservatives have warned about the weaponization of our federal institutions and the steady erosion of our separation of powers. But what Cruz did was elevate the conversation from a philosophical debate to an undeniable mathematical reality. He brought out the explicit statistics showing a massive, unprecedented spike in secret executive orders and judicial maneuvers designed specifically to isolate and bypass congressional oversight. Think about how catastrophic this data is to the progressives' favorite narrative. They love to claim that their governance is rooted in transparency and the defense of norms. Yet Cruz completely unmasked the reality, an administration that relied on automated systems like the Autopen to mass sign directives and deploy hidden non-disclosure applications through friendly partisan judges. They deliberately used the judiciary to blindfold the American people and spy on the legislative branch. Isn't it incredible how quiet the opposition gets the second the facts come out? Why is it that the mainstream media completely ignores these glaring instances of executive overreach until a conservative senator forces it into the congressional record? The answer is obvious: selective outrage. From a policy and constitutional perspective, what conservatives should love about this exchange is Cruz's unyielding defense of the sovereign citizen. He reminded everyone in that room that power in this country originates with we the people, not with unelected bureaucrats, rogue judges, or partisan elites. When federal agencies and judges collude to target elected representatives and hide their subpoenas for a year, it strikes at the absolute heart of the Constitution's speech or debate clause. The political implications of this exposure are massive. By laying out these facts so clearly, Cruz has drawn a definitive line in the sand. He's provided a roadmap for how the current conservative-led committees and Attorney General Pam Bondi can legally unpack the deep state's overreach and force true transparency back into our federal system. This exchange is going to have a profound impact on public opinion because it strips away the political theater. When the American public looks at the raw numbers Cruz presented, they don't see a partisan disagreement. They see a corrupted institutional process that desperately needs to be cleaned out. The previous administration thought they could bury their overreach in the dark, but Ted Cruz brought the receipts to the light, proving once again that facts, logic, and the U.S. Constitution will always win the day. Ted Cruz's savage takedown of Biden's presidency provides a direct, unedited window into this exact Senate Judiciary Committee clash where the numbers on systemic executive overreach were laid bare.